enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality, a boot upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead woman sign. Go along to get along, hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best. Worldwide genocide. The overlords are hungry parasites. They point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. A pile of bodies rotten, covered in lies. But no one wants to talk about it. It's safer not to talk about it. I cut my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, March the 27th, 2022. We want to welcome you to episode 29. We've almost made it to the big 3-0. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim and Dustin tonight, and we are coming to you live. It's 10 p.m. Actually, I think it's like 10:01. We got started a little bit late because it's 10:05 now. I fell asleep right before the guys came over, and I didn't wake up till probably about 9:30, and it did give me a lot of time to get prepared for the show tonight, like I would like to. But we almost got it there for you. If you're joining us tonight, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell, hit like, and send us a comment. Jump in the live chat. Let us know what you think about some of the topics that we're discussing. So that's what's really going to make the show something that people are going to get some value from, is if you all contribute to the conversation. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. Let us know what you think about the topics that we are discussing. How's it going, Tim?
Whoop, whoop. That's
Dustin?
all I can manage for the moment.
Yeah, pretty good.
Good day today?
Some technology issues.
Right.
Yeah. Technology issues, what's the problem?
This phone's crapped out on me pretty much.
Crapped out as in slow, screen pooped out.
It's slow, and with this whole wonderful 5G stuff where they're taking everything over to that, and this phone isn't it's a multi-band phone, so it could work on everything.
Okay.
And that means when they're updating everything now that they're killing his bands. So if they sense your phone can do those bands, they're kicking you off of it. And basically, and it's like I had to get a phone, and it'll be here like Tuesday. And if I didn't, it was not really exactly what I wanted, but if I didn't get it by then, it's like I could actually lose like my service or stuff and have to get through all that fiasco. So
Well, to give you a silver lining, that 5G is fast, but to quote the touch of gray, every silver lining has a touch of gray. 5G don't work around here.
Yeah. The 5G is a super high energy signal, but it doesn't propagate very far. So they have to have them pretty much on every corner in order for it to work properly. So a lot of the times you're jumping from mid-level 5G signal to a 4G signal and back and forth. And
It changes at my house too. Like it'll be 5G for, I don't know. And I'm not sure if there's a level where if there's a bunch of people using the 5G, if it'll kick certain people off that maybe aren't using their data. But I've noticed I have 5G at my home sometimes, and other times it drops down to 4. But it's just a strange spotty area for the cell service at the moment. I'm sure that's going to be better than having your cell phone not work. So.
yeah, I can't make calls or much right now on it. So it sucks. So this phone's still relatively new, and it's been a pretty good phone. And I'm like, I didn't really want to upgrade it, but you know, what am I trying to say? I guess
That you're ready.
you can't be a cool guy anymore. You're gonna have to be a phone normie like Tim and I.
Can you not get like then not make like a 5G flip, something like that's real stupid? I mean, I guess you could technically brick it like just like only have, you know what I'm saying, like only have cell phone service and just never use any email services or anything of the sort on there. So they're, even though they could GPS locate you blindly, I'm not ready to go full on Mel Gibson and conspiracy theory levels of detaching from society yet.
yeah.
I'm just saying that, like, for a lot of people, they think the smartphone has in a way ruined them because, like, not to go on a big cell phone rant, but like they can't get from point A to point B anymore. Like, I remember you go in Atlas and just go go places.
Mm-hmm.
People can't do that anymore. Like, I feel hard. Like, oh shit, I'm in Kingsport. How do I get home? I don't have my GPS if I take this back road, you know? And you find yourself like checking social media for no reason just because your brain's like, dang, let's do this.
Doom scrolling.
And I'm wondering, like, not because I need to detach from society. Every now and then I just want to like not have all that, like, so I can think a little bit and kind of make myself be responsible. So that's what the question for me is there a 5G option for us idiots who don't want to have nice things?
I don't know, but it does. Like last time I had to go without a phone. At first, it was kind of like that. Like you felt like, what I'm going to do with my hands while I'm sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time it took me about a week to get it, I was like, almost didn't want to use it. By the time I got it, I was like, well, that was kind of nice to have a little.
You like detox the same way if you needed to quit smoking or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good way to start because the technology has us by the balls in a lot of ways, and that's kind of been the theme of one of the main themes of the show is. How do we still embrace the world that's going on around us? There's a merger of modern society and agrarian society going on right in front of our eyes. We see here in little Carter County, we see the smart meters going on the homes, and the next city over, we see the smart poles down in Chattanooga. We're having a full smart city. The TVA is talking about using our region to test modular nuclear reactors. So, it's a whole new technological world that is making its way through our region, and we're being a part of it whether we like it or not. So it's kind of how do you straddle that fence of still being a part of society but not being totally enslaved to technology or being totally tracked and traced for it by it.
Even though the mobile nuclear reactors, that actually could be a pretty good thing.
Oh yeah,
that helps with energy independence on a lot of other sources.
Well, when I did the story on it, I felt like it sounded like a good alternative to a lot of the other propositions for power that I've heard, and it would kind of actually, if it were done properly, it would be something of a vanguard against that kind of technological onslaught from the outside, because that allows us to continue, which we already have with hydroelectric power. We have the ability to make energy for ourselves pretty much with what we have here in this region through the TVA, and that seems like a way to make more power. So that's
it's really, and you look into how nuclear really works, it's a really clean, and besides the worst case scenario of a meltdown, but whenever it runs properly, it's actually doesn't pollute anything, unlike the like natural gas and coal plants, which make horrible amounts of radiation. Actually,
really,
yeah, they have very radioactive a lot of radioactive properties that they make, and like around their power plants are horrible. Most
of the coal and natural gas now, they really don't have a lot of other emissions than water vapor as far as particulate matter now. Is that right? If I understand it correctly, that's,
I think.
They have these, filters over everything where they capture pretty much everything with the water. And the natural gas in particular is pretty clean, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a lot better. Like coal's just pretty much the only thing it's good for really is keeping stuff for like smelters, like big steel refineries. But as a power, it doesn't produce near the energy and the megawatt outputs.
It's just cheap and plentiful, and there's a way to you can have a never-ending supply of it, can keep it running. Natural gas kind of depends on pipelines right now that have been in the news a lot lately. The natural gas through Europe has been in the news a lot lately, and of course that that regional conflict is still going on. And meanwhile, we here in Little Tennessee in Carter County, we have the controversy of the crosses there going on, and
still going.
Yeah, still going in Elizabethton. And as time goes on, I keep thinking of more things, and I think I've mentioned this sentiment a little before, but it does appear, especially with the Surf Betsy water park that is being proposed, and it looks like they're pretty much going forward with it. I mean, to say it's being proposed is kind of, like to say that a new world order is being proposed. It's happening around us.
Anybody is really going to is anybody actively opposing the water park?
Well, you don't see it in the news, but I'm thinking of actively opposing it.
Oh, yeah. Are you doing it because you have a reason, or are you doing it because
because I'm just a contrarian?
That's me. Yeah. That's why I don't ever want anybody to take what I'm saying too seriously, because take Cliff seriously, I guess. Don't take me too seriously. But I mean, is there anybody out there opposing it because I don't know? Would there be anything involved other than fishermen? Would that do anything?
Well, I mean, they're cutting up they're making the river conducive to whitewater rapids in a couple of different areas, like we talked about last week. So, in order to do that, they're going to have to redo the riverbed in some way. Move some things around and dig in it to make it do that. And not only that, you're looking at the casino coming in Bristol, and I have to imagine that the city leaders are saying, look, we've got to find a way to capitalize off of this traffic to the casino area. And like you said, it's kind of a gentrified outdoors, for people who want to come and pay to do outdoor activities. Yeah, we already have some of that. Yeah. It is, and we have a couple of rafting companies in the summertime.
What is it, going the way to Bristol is that when you can rent the ATVs and they got the big swings and the zip lines?
The outdoor adventures, off the grid. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I've actually been wanting to do that for a while.
Gorge for the people that have large Christian groups is actually pretty nice with the train camping. They have a zip line and a fake beach. It is a good area for outdoorsy stuff.
It is.
So,
and I've enjoyed it most of my life. And as we see the casino coming in, we're looking at the city leaders are seeing cha-ching, big money coming in from people in the casinos. And
North Carolina, you just almost have to come right by. They must have that big ass jail.
Yeah, our biggest landmark and monument. Yes, that's right.
I always found that ironic.
Yeah, I remember Mike Jones, local musician, had a song about looking out a jail at the baseball field and saying that was so messed up. And I can remember when they were building that jail, I ran to an old man at the gas station, and he was like, "They putting it next to the baseball field. The baseball field." Why? Yeah, it's like, no, he's right. Well, I guess that's a
Scare 'em straight.
stark warning for the children playing baseball. You know,
Hit home runs, or you'll end up in there.
you better not break a window and playing ball, or you end up in the big house. But yeah, that jail, you know, was that was a big controversy at the time when it happened, and I'm still opposed to it. We didn't need that much housing for prisoners from local crimes, so they farm it out to state and federal criminals or prisoners, to keep money coming in from the jail. Yeah, there's not enough.
Well, they always have like all those escapes.
Probably.
There's people that that the Carter County Barney Fifes aren't. You know, so I'm not saying like to disrespect local law enforcement. I would have to say most law enforcement around here probably aren't prepared for Chicago level criminal.
Yeah. Well, I doubt any real Chicago level criminals are getting in through here. I think it's probably people that they're holding.
I guess the most escapes I'm thinking of the ones the Max place up the road.
Yeah, I think those local ones were local folks, the ones that were having over in Washington County, and then you had, or what was it? Not Washington County, but Sullivan County. And then you had the drone flying in the drugs or whatever it is. I just imagine it was drugs. I guess it could have been the cell phone or hammer, rock hammer.
They could fit in your crack.
Yeah, they could have been wanting to do a little Shawshank Redemption action there. So who knows?
Rock hammer.
Yeah,
You're risking it all for some rock hammer in action.
Yeah, it could have been. Who knows? It worked out well for Andy Dufresne, but you kind of had to plan ahead for that. I don't think these guys were doing anything like that. But as we got back on, the cross controversy, I mentioned in a previous episode that I thought it was maybe good because it'll keep people who I don't like out of here. And you mentioned that you thought it would, when we see people coming from another area, there is concern that they are coming to change the area to the place that they left, such as California, New York, or wherever.
That's not my concern.
No,
I think people think that.
Yeah, I think you're right too.
Spice was the one that brought up that. No, she brought up that it made the whole area look super, super right wing, and then you said, "Yeah, I kind of like that."
Well, I did because I got to thinking about it, and with the changes that they're wanting to make for it, I don't necessarily. That's not a way that I like. Elizabeth.
I haven't been under.
I haven't really.
I've been under a rock. So there's changes.
No, not to the cross situation. It's pretty much all we're seeing is people. But I'm just saying about the changes that they're wanting to make to the area. And you mentioned that we need new people moving in order, because people are leaving. But I look at it this way, man. I say and I don't mean this disrespectfully. This is an all-encompassing term. I'm just going to say the pink hairs, and you could be included in the pink hairs, and so could I have at one point. Not because our hair's pink, just because,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's just say, and I said you kind of reminded me of a hippie, but a gypsy, I think, is more of what I was looking at for you. So, like the gypsies, the gypsies, and the pink hairs kind of that grew up here, they kind of tend to want to leave. And like you said, you did it one time, I did it one time when I was kind of involved in more of that thing. And then you have people who are moving in here from other areas, and a lot of them are coming from places like California and Connecticut and New York, but a lot of them are people who have lived there for a long time, and they've held out, and they said it's just gotten too bad. I just can't stay and keep up the good fight anymore. I'm going to go to Tennessee where there's like-minded people, and I run into these people in my work moving here all the time. So it's definitely a lot of them coming in who have that mentality. So I think this place is attractive to people who want. So we will have if we stay true to our roots and stay true to what Elizabeth and Carter County was, we're going to attract new people who are looking for that, even though we're going to have some, as I called the pink hairs, who are not going to want to stay here. They want to go elsewhere. But a lot of them will come back when they get older, too.
Well, I think you're having a lot of people move here. I think the issue, which this may even be fictitious, I'm sure it has to be happening on some level. But what people are afraid of is people moving here out of fear to get away from what has happened in their area, to come here to be safe, but then vote it into the same situation.
Yeah. Not understand what it was. I'll tell you, the most of them that I have talked to, I've talked before. I'm neither conservative or liberal, but I do have, a lot of conservative leanings on certain issues. I have a lot of liberal leanings, but I tend to put myself kind of right there in the middle. And this guy coming that I ran into he was from Westchester. I think it was Westchester, New York. And he was talking to me. He's like, "Brother, I'm more conservative than you are. I guarantee it." He's like, "I've been in New York, and so I've been fighting these people, my whole life." He's like, "It's just, I'm more conservative than most of the people here, but people think because I'm from New York that." That I'm helped vote it that way. It's like, no, I was voting no the whole time, but it's kind of overrun, and it's to the point now where I don't think there's any getting better. So I've come here. So I do think that the area is attractive to new people for different reasons. We got to look at why people might want to live here. Are people going to want to move here because we try to be something we're not and make it this, the big touristy town? In order to attract, hey, come see it. How it's like nobody wants to go hang out with the desperate kid.
I think everything becomes that though. Kind of like Asheville was. I don't need to slam Asheville. Asheville used to be cooler before it had so much traffic and so much. I guess you want to call it like, I don't know. I want to say like, it's almost like the whole town turned into like a mall metal equivalent of itself. They used at once upon a time when all the gentrified stuff started moving in, they started selling these little bumper stickers at the gifty shops that say "Keep Asheville Weird." But that's almost become like a caricature of itself now, because you can find those same bumper stickers sold at what was it, the store. What is the store there? It's like American Apparel or one of those Urban Outfitters, and they sell that same sticker in those sort of stores now, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just saying, like, I almost look at that sticker as a caricature of itself, because Asheville, even though it's still way cooler, it's still pretty cool. It's not what it used to be because it became so popular that it attracted a lot of money, and it's almost like anything cool eventually gets corrupted because it becomes too popular.
Kind of like, it's kind of like Dustin and the phone issue. It's neat to have something that not everybody else is in on, something that is kind of your thing and you share with a few other people that you can discuss, but it's kind of something. And I remember growing up, I never wanted to be, all my friends were, Chicago Bulls fans and Dallas Cowboys fans, and I was like, I've got to find another team other than that. And then like everybody talked about how cool the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo was. Like, fuck that! I want the TurboGrafx 16. And that was a bad decision in hindsight. Because
which one'd you go with?
The TurboGrafx.
Oh my god, you're the only person I've ever met that.
I did. It was purely out of spite, but we did also get the Super Nintendo, but it was mostly just because I wanted to have something cool that I thought was neat that nobody else did.
Sometimes that works.
And the TurboGrafx was not the way to go on that one. They had some cool games, but you could only get them order them out of the Sears catalog, and you could never play
the Sega CD. I was like the only guy that had one of those.
Yeah,
I was the only person I knew that had a Sega Master System.
Do you have a 32? Do you have a 32X? I never met anybody with one of those. The thing that you plugged into the top of the Sega Genesis to make it a 32 gigabyte card, or what do you call it?
It was a 32-bit.
32-bit, yeah, that's it.
Which only like 6 games worked for it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's no wonder that didn't take off. Who wants to buy a bunch of attachments to plug into a console you've already got?
But you have if you put the Game Genie on it, you had to stack that big stick out of the Genesis.
That's kind of how the TurboGrafx was. If you got the CD for it, you took it onto the back, and it
was the TurboGrafx. Did it have cross games or was it?
It didn't have many. I mean, it was mostly original games.
Original.
Yeah, Bomberman was like one of the only ones that was on multiple consoles that was on it. Raiden, the shooting game that was on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good game. Most of the other ones were proprietary to the TurboGrafx
and weren't good.
Not really, no.
Okay.
What was like their?
They had some good arcade ports, but I never got to play.
What was like their mascot? There was like the little.
Keith Courage was one of them. I don't know. Yeah, he was not very good.
Dang, I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember either.
TurboGrafx. I can't either.
But it was tried to compete with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo, but it was basically more of a competition between the Master System and the NES as far as where it fit in.
The Master System was definitely inferior, in my opinion, to the NES, but I think it was.
They had some good games though.
Pretty good one. Actually, my brother James
Shinobi
has all that stuff.
Shinobi was a good one.
Considine was my favorite one.
I don't think I tried that one.
There's a couple of good ones.
Well, a lot going up in the world. We had
And again, huh?
we had with the Russia-Ukraine situation, we had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Like you had the conductor of the Munich orchestra. It was demanded by the mayor of Munich that he either denounce Putin and Russia or he resign, which he was. He was removed from the orchestra. You had a couple of singers around the world or around Europe that were also removed from their positions because they were Russian. You had them banning Russian cats from the cat show. I mean, not cats owned by Russian people necessarily, but Russian cat
like
breeds.
Russian blue or something.
Yes, Russian blue was one in particular.
During the,
Did they?
Too.
Did they?
Yeah,
That's
according to the
crazy.
internet,
Oh, I
that's
believe it.
true.
Oh, I believe it. I mean,
I don't understand that at all. It's not. It's
Well,
not
it's
the
the same-
culture. It's not the people or
Do
the
you remember,
culture. You know.
Do you remember right after, I'm pretty sure it was just around the same time of 9/11, the French did something to piss Americans off. I don't remember what.
Oh, the French
and therefore
fry
they
thing.
started calling
Freedom
it
fries?
Yeah, I remember that.
We're pretty arbitrary when we get pissed off at people.
Yeah.
but who actually called them freedom fries? Nobody fucking called them freedom fries. Fox News was like, "Oh, we're gonna start calling these freedom fries now," and they'd run that every 15
They tried to do it at
minutes.
school for like a hot minute, and that was.
Well, I was a
it.
moron, and I never said freedom fries, unironically. So I think it may have just been media spin.
Because the French
Weird.
didn't want to go bomb another country
We didn't
with
want
us.
to.
Yeah, they didn't want. We didn't want to join the coalition of the
The
willing.
thing was that
He's
that's
not- Why don't you bomb crap?
Yeah, really.
an arbitrary name anyway. It's not either. Yeah, that's one of.
Would freedom fries, would that include like waffle fries, or would that just be regular, and would it be curly fries? Would any of those be freedom fries, or would they have to
They'd
be
be like those smiley fries, but they're just the shape of a big damn flag.
or a big bomb?
It's like a big hash brown shaped like an American flag.
You get a big bomb shaped shaped French fry.
They just end up looking like that.
That's a freedom fry right there. Yeah, everything does, doesn't it? That's what those missiles they send, they're just lobbing dicks.
Nothing's more stupid than Bezos rocket looking like Dr. Evil's.
Oh yeah, Johnson,
It's like a giant.
Becker.
He had to have done that on purpose. He went to the people from Blue Origin and was like, I want it to look like a dick. They're like, well,
I already,
no, they
I already
kinda
look like a super villain
He's
anyway.
like, no. See how long it is? It looks like a rocket. Make it stumpy.
Put some balls on there.
Give it a head.
Get some balls on there.
Like a penis.
Give it the sing.
What's going on with What's going on with CERN?
Well, CERN is also
Gonna make
banning
it
the
look
Russian
reality.
scientists. I'm surprised they've not thrown the Russian astronauts out of the USS, the international, or the ISS, the International Space Station. They are removing Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, from the records. I'm shitting you not, because he's a Russian. Even though he was a different. I mean, he was in. This was Cold War era Russia that he was a citizen of. This is.
And now it's like, oh, we can't. What?
This was the Russia that put missiles in Cuba, and we faced off around the world. Supposedly, we went to war in Vietnam. Over in this was the great bear Russia that was the threat. That was, we got speeches from Ronald Reagan every other week about how we're all going to die because this evil empire is going to come get us. I mean,
This is very similar to the.
and we heard it for decades before we were even alive. This horrible.
We had like Looney Tune cartoons.
Yeah.
Cold War.
But yeah, so now.
Well, it's very similar to the Japanese internment camps from World War II about how just being Asian pretty much made you suspect.
Yeah, I guess back then, even though
This is worldwide.
even though I disagree with that, I could kind of at least understand how some people were scared enough to do that, and it makes sense to them, because Japan was somebody that wasn't somebody we had dealt with on a large scale for a long time, and there weren't a lot of Japanese citizens in the United States, and then you had them kamikazing people. To make an excuse for them at the time, I guess. They didn't know who was going to be the next kamikaze, or what these regular people in Japan were doing. So even though I definitely disagree with the internment camps, I can at least see somewhat of a logical case being made for them based on what was going on in the world at the time, with Japan actually attacking United States interests, and they were a lot of people don't really know that they were doing biological weapons in China. They dropped these ceramic bombs full of fleas carrying the bubonic plague in China. It killed 500,000 Chinese, or 500,000 Chinese from these biological weapons. They were doing lots of crazy stuff. They attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor. So I guess
So what do they have to do in Russia for it to? I'm just playing the old devil dick here.
Yeah, please do.
So what does what does a Russian citizen have to do in the United States to suddenly justify the behavior that's going on right now, where they're taking people out of positions simply for being connected to Russian?
No, I don't think it does make any sense in the information age. I think we can know enough to.
I guess it's sort of like
well, okay, that does make a little bit.
I just feel like it's a different world, even though it
not
was
right, but yeah, I kind of get. I guess I do understand the level of paranoia that was back then.
right.
I guess my fear or my concern would be, people groupthink real easy, especially when they're afraid of things. And right now, there's a lot of people waving Ukrainian flags and they don't know anything about the country at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying you shouldn't support Ukraine. I'm saying you might not want to demonize people you don't know for reasons you don't understand. Don't put yourself in a position to think stupid. So at what point can they use that sort of thing to control people, to make them to do other atrocities that aren't even connected? I guess what I'm trying to say.
I guess it's also like, lest we forget, 2 years ago, for some reason, since the virus of a unknown origin, as some people had said, like there are people that were just randomly doing hate crimes on Asian people because where that virus originated out of.
Yeah,
even though there's no, it's kind of the same theater kind of deal.
What did they have to do with it? That
Well, there's
individual
multiple
person, nothing.
theories on that one. Do you think there's enough dumb people out there to make that connection where they're going to do like that projection to where they can then blow that up and then further divide the races from each other? Because like I know the narrative they were trying to spin there were like black people didn't like Asians, but like honestly before this, if that was a stereotype, I didn't know it, and it just really seemed like they were trying to sew another group of people against each other.
Well, that's kind of always going on, and there's racism in every community towards other races. I mean, so it's also easy to jump on one instance of it and make it look like that's representative of the larger community. So we got to be aware of that, and when we see these, it's because the news has chosen to report them on us, and we also have to be aware of that. And let's look here. We thought about talking last episode the Wolf Pack as a reference to the NWO from WWF in the 1990s, if y'all remember that. Where did that term New World Order, or the NWO as it was called in wrestling, where did that come from? I think the main place that it's been around for a long time. Actually, H.G. Wells wrote the book New World Order. It was written in, let's see, when was this thing published? I think it was in the 1920s.
What? The Shockmaster. You're aware of that, right? It's too far off topic.
I don't know the publishing date of it right offhand. But let's see, I'm wanting to think it was in the 1920s.
Yeah, it had to be in there because he died in 46.
Well, at any rate, it's been around a long time. This book, The New World Order, that's one of the first places that term became used. And H.G. Wells wrote a lot of things that science fiction that did come to be pretty accurate as far as the way he predicted some of these things. But he describes in The New World Order. He was an insider with a British group tasked to revive the once great British Empire, and they worked with the Venetian black nobility, the Khazar bankers, to try to rebuild this. And this was H.G. Wells outlining basically the idea for it. So we heard that idea going back then, but then we go to 1991. And it's actually September 11th, 1991. That's a pretty significant date. We talked about the symbology of it somewhat in one of the episodes on here. I don't remember which one it was.
Look this. Well,
Yeah.
it's not directly, but anytime you have numbers that do this, they call it flame numbers.
Yep. Let's show the people on the screen here. Let's cross our fingers for the display capture to work. And
what
then,
then?
Sort of. Well, not really that one. Almost like a palindrome number.
well, 1991. Yeah, that is a palindrome number. And let's see if we can get some display capture going on. Yes, we can. Let's see if it will continue to work as we go to the video. Now let's roll the videotape. And here's what's 10. Look here, we got the 11, and then that's kind of two. It looks like two towers, kind of, and then you've got the 1991,
and then you got 91. That's
Yep.
your array. So
so it's
numerology, a lot
911.
of times they use 13 and 31.
So the total date is 9/11/1991. So that's a pretty interesting date. So anyway, let's look at George H.W. Bush, President 41 of the United States.
Meanwhile, I'll scratch my abs.
The world we've known has been a
Oh,
world
we muted.
divided, world of barbed wire and concrete block, conflict, Cold War. Now we can see a new world coming into view.
He reminds me of a
A
pastor.
world in which
He's super creepy to me now. He didn't
Nerdy creepy
he didn't
bastard.
creep me out when I was a kid, but he does
Words
now.
of Winston Churchill. A world order in which the principles of justice and fair play protect the weak against the strong. A world where the United Nations, freed from Cold War stalemate, is poised to fulfill the historic vision of its founders. A world in which freedom and respect for human rights find a home among all nations. The Gulf War put this new world to its first test. And my fellow Americans, we passed that test. For the sake of our principles, for the sake of the Kuwaiti people, we stood our ground. Because the world would not look the other way. Ambassador El Saba, tonight, Kuwait is free.
He's very happy about that. I like what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna clap at this dude. In reality, he's like a spy from the country next door.
Remember, they propagandized us into that war too with the remember the I mean, we were really young at the time, but there was the claim that Saddam's troops were marching into hospitals and throwing babies out of the incubators. Yeah. And they had the girl come before, I think she was before the UN, and testify to that she had seen that. And then later it turned out that was all made up, and I think she was a Kuwaiti princess.
She was, yeah.
She was related to somebody in the Kuwaiti government. She was not a nurse, and I can't say for 100% she was not a nurse, but it turns out this story was not true. And as if that even makes any sense. I mean, if you're a military, you're on the move to take over a country, and you're going to run to let's stop to go to the hospital for a minute and throw the babies out. That really doesn't make any logistical sense from the purpose of an invading army. But no matter, they told us that story and pulled on our heartstrings, as they usually do, because they know that most of us are caring people and don't like to see people taken advantage of. So they use that to try to get us to support wars, and most of the time it works.
Especially stuff they always bring up things with children. So
All the way back to World War I that we talked about in the Babies on Bayonets over in was it Belgium? That never actually happened either.
That has a better ring to it.
Mm-hmm.
liberation.
Tonight, as our troops begin to come home, let us recognize that the hard work.
I need to take this and put the Gears of War logo behind it.
We've learned the hard lessons of history. The victory over Iraq was not waged as a war to end all wars. Even the New World Order cannot guarantee an era of perpetual peace, but enduring peace
He's creepy too.
must be our mission.
We just weren't allowed to think so because
Collins.
he was so black dude. That
Yeah.
was so rare at the time.
Will shape
Collins
not only
Powell
the New World Order we see
lied us into the Iraq War. He died recently.
in the war just ended, there were clear-cut objectives, timetables, above all, an overriding imperative to achieve results. We must bring that same sense of self-discipline, that same sense of urgency to the way we meet challenges here at home.
So they cut off the part where he says, we have the ability to put before us, and for those in future generations, a new world order. An order in which the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Look at that rapey mouth right there at that tongue.
That is. That's a lizard mouth right there, isn't it? Ugh.
Have you heard the Louis C.K. skit where he keeps asking, I think it's Donald Rumsfeld, if he's a lizard?
Yes.
I've not seen that.
I'll show it to you later.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty easy to find.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm not going to pull it up right now. So last week we talked about that Biden had mentioned a new world order. Here we've got a fact check from USA Today. Fact check: Biden's new world order reference tied to Ukraine, not the conspiracy theory. Let's see what Joe Biden had to say about it. It's funny. There's hardly anywhere where you can find him on video.
date right there, March 22nd. That's a significant date.
Yeah.
Because it's another double number like that.
Yeah, he did say it on March 22nd. Or no, he said it on March 21st.
That's what I was asking. What's the 22nd one down there? There's one that somebody said something on the 22nd. I was just wondering what it was. Oh.
New World Order generated more than 278,000 reactions on March 22nd on Facebook.
Some of y'all need to start listening. That's really what the White House page said?
He said, the New World Order is just an alt-right conspiracy theory. Biden says, we're coming into a new world order. Reads a March 22nd Facebook post that generated more than 1,000 interactions a day. Some of y'all need to start listening. No, Biden didn't say that. He said, we're coming into a new world order, man.
And who says some of y'all need to start listening?
It's whoever posted that the post was the new world order is just an alt-right conspiracy theory, and then Biden, we're coming into a new world order. And then the person captioned that with, some of y'all need to start listening.
So like a YouTube user Johnny in his basement said some of y'all need to start listening.
Yeah. Let's see. This is what we got here.
Man, he just don't look right, does he? Maybe
I think he's had a lot of plastic
I
surgery.
think it's like the makeup. Maybe they're having a slide of that makeup on there to make him look full of life. So he just looks like he's not okay.
It's the lizard.
I guess he needs to...
Well, the conspiracy, I think it was Mag Bitter Truth. I love watching that guy's videos. I'm sorry if you hate me for it.
As I said, the magnitude
When with the one video where the rosary beads came out of his sleeve, because he kept, like, when he did it, it looked like he was trying to get him out there a little bit, and people were like, the truth of it was, according to the narrative, he was trying to get the Catholic vote. Because remember at the time there was some question about whether people were okay with him not in the Catholic community because he is Catholic. And of course, the best of the conspiracy world decided that was like some kind of like alien lizard tongue or something coming out. And Mag's like, whoa, look at that! That dude is not human!
All right, we got a new subscriber just a minute ago. Thank you to whoever you were that just subscribed, and thank you folks for sharing that.
At 90?
No, we're at 89.
Oh, okay, we're almost there.
Yep. So we'd appreciate you to subscribe again. Now I got that video pulled up real quick with old
You gotta subscribe, and we're not gonna end the stream.
old creepy Uncle Joe. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna stay on here until you subscribe.
I'm backwards thinking of that. Now they'll unsubscribe.
It's fairly consequential, and it's coming. The federal government is doing its part to get ready. But under U.S. law, as you all remember, private sector
Oh, they may not be able to hear this.
largely decides the protections that
I hope they can, because we just did a lot with the...
Bush.
Yeah, so let me check and see if this... Nope, they haven't been able to hear it. Maybe they
ramble the whole time.
maybe they have been able to hear it on the microphone.
Well, hopefully so.
But let me do this
We're
for...
now going to reenact the entire thing through the microphones. Cliff's going to take over and do Mr. Bush. Goff's got Biden, and I'm going to do all of our individual banter in between all over again to keep it cohesive.
A new world order.
Is there anybody else who's significant who used that phrase? Because it really seems to me that if you were in politics, unless you were just intentionally gaslighting people, it seems like saying that phrase would almost be like saying fire at a movie theater.
1,000 points of light. Oh, that he'd used all kinds of symbolic language in that one. Oh yeah. I think it's called the 1,000 points of light speech, and I'm sure you've heard of that. Let's see.
I've never heard it referred to that way, but I might know the speech once I hear it. 1,000 points of light. What's the foundation there? What's the 1,000 points of light foundation?
It's a Masonic thing.
Isn't it the 1,000 points of light foundation?
Oh, the foundation. Oh, I don't know about
Foundation, I have to look
that.
it
I
up.
don't know about the
Get
foundation.
done.
Let's see. History of points of light.
Formally recognized more than 1,000 military points of light. Oh, that's when he used to give those little crystal shards to people for doing something positive in the community. Is that correct?
Now, I will say, I know a guy who was, this guy was, he's retired now. He was a Vietnam veteran. He worked for the sheriff's department, worked for, he was a school teacher, history teacher, and this guy, he was actually recognized by Bush, and he had nothing but nice things to say about him. Apparently, the guy gave him a challenge coin and was alone with him in an elevator, and told the Secret Service to leave him so he could talk to him for a minute, and gave him that coin. And this guy, there was no telling him that, Daddy Bush was a crime lord and all this stuff, because he met the man, and
I'm sure he's charismatic.
yeah,
as
there's
hell.
something nice, yeah. Well, he must have been to a degree at least, and then especially the law enforcement people, him being the head spook who became, well, he was the director of the CIA, and he was like, I've never been in the CIA before. Like,
What was his dad's name?
Preston. Yeah.
Was it Preston?
Yeah.
Prescott.
Prescott, yeah.
He was one
Prescott.
of the founders, wasn't he?
He was one of the he was involved in the creation of the OSS, I believe.
Founders, huh?
I think he was more of an oil man, Prescott Bush, and then George Bush started Zapata Oil while he was down in the Caribbean, and a lot of people say that he was actually in the CIA then while he was working on starting the oil company, and then next thing you know, he comes from Zapata Oil to he becomes the head of the CIA, and they asked him, if it was when he was president about his time at the CIA, and he basically said, "Oh, I've never been in the CIA." He was vice president. Like, so he's telling us that he went basically from never being in the CIA to being the director to being the vice president to being president in a span of about 15 years. So I find that
talented.
He's definitely talented. Let's see. Biden says the U.S. must lead the New World Order.
Of course. Why wouldn't we?
Now let's see if we can find him actually saying this now. Now that the people can probably hear us.
As I said, the magnitude of Russia's cyber capacity is fairly consequential, and it's coming. The federal government is doing its part to get ready, but under U.S. law, as you all remember, the private sector, all of you, largely decides the protections that you will or will not take in order to protect your sources. But let me be absolutely clear about something. It's not just in your interest that are at stake when there are potential use of cybersecurity. It is the national interest at stake. And I would respectfully
I don't think this is even the one that I meant to watch.
For you to invest as much as you can in making sure, and we will help in any way, that you have built up your technological capacity to
This is
deal
not.
with cyber.
There's a new world order coming, man. That's not the one I was looking for. Sorry, guys. They got these things mislabeled here. Missing context is basically their thing. Based on our research, we rate missing context the claim that Biden said there is a new world order because without additional details, it could be misleading. Biden's full speech shows he was discussing global changes in the wake of Russia's attack on Ukraine. He was not confirming a one-world government conspiracy theory. Historians and experts say the term New World Order has been used by politicians for decades to describe international changes during a new period of history. And yes, that's true. But what they mean by that is that the world is becoming more consolidated. A new world order means they're going to order and organize the world and restructure, or a great reset, as has often been called. And excuse me, we see the conflict in Ukraine going on right now, and Russia going on, and there is a global restructuring happening about it. We actually see, let's see, where are we going here? Where are we going at? Give me just a second, guys. That India ditches the dollar, buys Russian oil in rupees. Russia is, is moving further and further from the petrodollar, which is our main way of basically exerting our financial and our economic authority over here in the United States, is by the petrodollar, which is backed up by basically the might of the U.S. military and people's faith in the currency itself. But if India starts buying oil from Russia in rupees, that's going to be a lot less petrodollars that they're buying, a lot less dollars that they are buying in order to make that transaction. So that shows that the demand for dollars is not what it used to be. It's been on the wane anyway, but this is a big development here, and we want to talk about a new world order.
I wonder if printing 40% of our national currency right now in the past year and a half is wonder if that's anything to do with that.
Yeah, and a lot of people, have been giving Biden shit for all the inflation, and there's no reason not to do that. But we also need to look at, the Trump administration really started this whole thing. So they spent, what was it, $7 trillion in 2021 or $7 trillion in 2020, and most of that, we talked about the Biden bucks, the $500. Child tax credit a month, and we talked about the Trump bucks where he give you the $1,200 check or the $1,400, whatever it was. But that was just a fraction of the total money that went out. There was trillions of dollars went out. Most of it went overseas. Most of the stuff that went in within the country had very little oversight over it. So you had people who were already rich and who already had a lot of businesses where it was pretty easy for them to just get money for doing nothing, and they could actually get money in order to keep employees on, and then still fire all the employees and keep the money. You saw all kinds of stuff of that happen. You saw it going overseas a lot. So it was a huge waste of money, added hugely to the very bigly to the national debt. But we saw lots of different money going out lots of different places, and it all contributed to the inflation that Joe Biden says is not happening. But you can look around you and look at the amount of that goods cost, and you can see this going up. I bought a battery jump starter today, with the little cheap one with the air pump. They're like $50-$60 for the cheapest one you could buy about 2 years ago. There was $90 for the cheapest one you could buy today. A lot of the things that you buy every day, like milk and food prices, that's kind of one of the last places, even though it is slowly creeping up.
Going up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking at some things are noticeably more, and a lot of them they're giving you less product. Mm-hmm. Like I noticed, it's probably been about 20 years ago, but orange juice went from 64 ounces in a carton to 59 ounces in a carton. And I don't know, almost none of them have 64 ounces now. But you see little things like that happening.
Over time, like the bigger bottles of like Gatorade and Powerade, they're no longer 32 ounces. They're 28. Mm-hmm. Almost all of those are changing. Yep. I'm pretty sure if it wasn't synonymous to saying the big jugs of soda being a 2 liter, if they could have got by with cutting those, they probably would. But everyone calls it a 2 liter, and you're like, hey, if it's a 1.8 liter, you're gonna be like, wait.
Well, you remember a 2 liter used to be $1 or 99 cents most of the time. Now they're closer to $2 in grocery stores and gas stations. They have specials where you can buy 2 for $3 or whatever, but they're usually closer to $2 a piece. Or I think in Food City, a lot of times they're like $2.20 for a 2 liter.
But also you're paying $2 for a 20 ounce as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Places, so it's like.
Well, and then they've got these 1 liters that they sell in Dollar General, and they're $1 now. So you're basically paying for a 1 liter what you were paying for a 2 liter, 15, 20 years ago. But the inflation is coming across the board. Everything is costing more. Where it's really hitting our cars and home prices right now, we're really seeing those shoot up because everybody had a little bit extra money in their hand. We saw lumber and building materials shoot up because that's what, I had people buying jobs from me that, like, whenever they gave out the Trump money, and some people are like, well, we just got $5,400, so I guess we'll go ahead and do this job here. And so you had a whole lot of that going, and it really drove up the cost of building materials. So and it made them really hard to get too. And wood is still, I'm looking at replacing my back fence, and it's still about twice what it would have been 3 years ago.
What are the odds that this is, because I always try to think like an idiot, so hear me out. Ready? What are the odds that this is connected to cryptocurrency? Because I know we like to take large shits on the upper class, like they're just going down with a sinking ship. But they're never going to let everything completely sink. They're always looking for another like golden parachute to jump onto, and then whatever citizens happen to be connected to that golden parachute, they benefit and they sell them and use their votes. I'm just wondering how much of this is a bunch of dominoes that they set up to try to get a U.S. currency that's made completely digital like a cryptocurrency.
Well,
the only way to do that is to detach it from the oil, and the only way to detach it from oil is to give people a reason to make it so.
Well, if you remember, we talked about how Biden signed the executive order that looked at creating a U.S. digital dollar. So that's already in the works. It didn't say anything about it being a crypto dollar, but it also talked about him regulating cryptocurrencies, which would allow them to tie them into that digital dollar. Remember, I've said way back, I think it was the first episode with Drew, all that would take for the U.S. government, in my opinion, to really screw over cryptocurrency is what if they start accepting Bitcoin for taxes? What if they start accepting Bitcoin as payment for taxes?
I don't have an argument for that. I'm not educated enough on it. Golf, it's on you, man. Golf, the Bitcoin expert.
Talking Bitcoin with Goff.
Do you own any cryptocurrency, they can?
I have a little bit.
Well, you don't have to tell me exactly what. You got anything about Ethereum or whatever it is?
I've got a little bit.
This shit is. I know Bitcoin, Ethereum. I try to remember some of the things Drew said, but I'm gonna try to think way ahead and get whatever's ahead of Bitcoin, so I can get off the ground level.
Well, I'll tell you, man. I think all this was
taking off that hard.
I'm going to take these people at their word. The Klaus Schwabs, the World Economic Forum member nations. We showed on here how Schwab has bragged that they have captured and penetrated the cabinet positions in many Western governments, including Canada, and that he has several people in the United States, people that you'd recognize, Dan Crenshaw, Tulsi Gabbard. He has them all over the place from both sides. Vladimir Putin even was a World Economic Forum young global leader. Emmanuel Macron from France. What's her name? Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister there in Canada. She's also a World Economic Forum board member. So I'm going to take all these people at their word that they do intend to have a great reset, and they do intend to have a new world order where they have set the elite in a fixed position where they are able to trade goods and services pretty much at will, and we are more of the gears in which that would make the system run, and we have to behave a certain way.
They basically have to crash any freedom, any self-sustainability we have to get us under, to capture us basically into something like that, to where we can't really function without it.
And if we go back to 1958, Aldous Huxley wrote the novel Brave New World. Well, the Huxleys were actually with Julian Huxley. He was one of the founding members of the UN, and he was actually in on the planning of this and knew what was happening with this idea for the Brave New World, where it was basically a return to feudalism and neo-feudalism, you would say, where the lords and ladies of the world, live in their fancy technological castles, while the rest of us serfs, work the land. Except now the serfs are going to be just kept around for basic, whatever tasks the robots can't do.
Well, and it said in the book that it was they don't own anything.
That's right.
They'll just were like with our suit got damaged, they just could get another one.
Yep. Well, in Brave New World, you were bred to all the drive was bred out of you. The only thing that you ever wanted, you will own nothing and you will be happy. That's what the World Economic Forum said. And in Brave New World, for example, they go into, when you read the novel, they go into how an airline, like an airline mechanic was, that too. That we see happening too.
They were
But
trying to teach them to desensitize them to sex. Well, it just hit me that that's what Find the Zipper was.
It was about breaking up the family unit by having these children introduced to sexual play early, and not making connections whenever sex is supposed to be something that's deeply personal, but they were wanting them to engage in it as play, so it became something that did not form bonds, and then reproduction was completely controlled by the state. There was everybody took medicine to sterilize them. They also took medicines to make them happy, and they were conditioned to enjoy the state that they found themselves in, such as the airline mechanic who needed to work. Well, I think he was a rocket mechanic in the book. They were looking at rockets flying around the world, and this guy, he was bred in a test tube flying in a rocket one, so he would be comfortable with it. He was bred in the heat, and basically they grew this child in such a manner, and again, it was controlled. Reproduction was controlled by the state, and this child was produced in such a manner that he would enjoy the servitude of being in a rocket and, you know, working on it in extreme heat while rich people traveled from one place to the other. And in the story of Brave New World, they look at a so-called savage, you know, a man who was not brought up in this world, and he eventually kills himself after being a part of it.
Spoiler alert, man.
Oh, sorry.
1932.
Yeah, well, if you've not had time to read it, you know, whatever. I hate to spoil it for you, but I hate to spoil this one for you. But in 1958, he wrote a book called Brave New World Revisited, where he came out and said, "This is all the stuff I've showed you in Brave New World is actually true, and these people are implementing it, and I think I agree with it. I want to be part of this elite, and I think this is better for society in general. I think it'll produce better people, but I think people have the right to know about it, and that's why I'm writing Brave New World Revisited."
Gomork.
What's that?
Gomork, Never-Ending Story. You watch it?
He's the turtle, right?
No, that's
Or he's the wolf, the bad guy that.
Yeah, what is the Morla is the turtle. Gomork
Yeah.
is the big black panther in his speech when he goes up against Atreyu. Says something like when Atreyu asks him, who he is, and he says, "I'm the helper of the nothing." Essentially, his speech is a paraphrase that he's kind of pissed at humans for not believing and dreaming anymore. So the nothing is eating the world.
And you
since
deserve
he
it.
has to sit there and watch his whole world get eaten, he's decided to help it do it faster because So Aldous Huxley said, "Well, it's going to end up that way, and I might as well, sitting on the right hand of the devil."
Yeah, more or less, I think. Yeah, and you can watch a talk of Huxley going over all this stuff back. I think it was at Berkeley in '61, where you can find this video. Just look up Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, and he'll go all over it about with you and let you know that this is all real. They intend to do all this stuff, and we're watching it being implemented in real time around us right now. But the technological toys they have are far more advanced than what Huxley could imagine, and the control grid is just as all encompassing. And as we see, it's being implemented all around the world. They're combining societies, they're combining governments. We're seeing restructuring in governments, and we're seeing restructuring in financial systems that will really change the way that the world works. So who knows which way it's going to go, but I know which way that they want it to go.
Though also, in one fun little tidbit, with the technologies advancing as widely as they have, it has also given more of a rise to, the information being able to get out there. It's also led a little more to the resistance. They haven't gotten as far as they wanted to by now.
Oh, I think you're right. I think in some ways they have, and in other ways they haven't. So it's been, the internet's definitely been a double-edged sword for them.
Seems like they're see if this makes sense. It seems like they're prepping people to be okay with the idea of breaking a few eggs. Mm-hmm. Because even in, I hate to use pop culture references, but they're so universal to everyone that I have to use them. I think it was Ragnarok when they bring his sister Freya back, and Marvel, Loki and Thor have to battle their sister who throws the crazy spikes at them and shit. When she first takes the castle back over, she throws their daggers up into the ceiling and breaks the murals off and reveals the true history of Asgard. And it's the true history of Asgard was the only reason they're allowed to live like kings is because they essentially took over the 9 realms like Viking tyrants, restructured the whole unit, whatever it is, 9 realms to make them function the way they do. And they justify it by saying, yes, but the whole thing is better now. And so we're going to cover up the fact that we kind of made it that way. And it seems like, but they never paid for any of that. Like Asgard didn't, well, I guess they did. The whole place went up in flames, but nobody disagrees with Thanos. That's my thing. Like, kids are very sympathetic with Thanos, because I think a lot of kids were like, yeah, just doing this, you know what I'm saying? Like, half the problems go away, because you're not mature in the head, I guess. I don't know. I think those are very heavy themes to be giving kids, if I'm really thinking clearly about that. Like, Ninja Turtles and Darkwing Duck never made me think about mass genocide, whether or not it's okay, you know?
Hang on. I'm going to find you one. I got one thing to read for you real quick from Chuck
Fight Club.
Palahniuk, from the author of Fight Club. Remember this: the people you're trying to step on, we're everyone you depend on. We're the people who do your laundry and cook your food and serve your dinner. We make your bed. We guard you while you're asleep. We drive the ambulances. We direct
Discover and
your call. We are cooks and taxi drivers, and we know everything about you. We process your insurance claims and credit card charges. We control every part of your life. We are the middle children of history, raised by television to believe that someday we'll be millionaires and movie stars and rock stars, but we won't. And we're just learning this fact, so don't fuck with us. That's from Chuck Palahniuk.
Then this is the part he says, his balls are cold as ice.
Well, if you saw Fight Club, you saw, a lot of people probably didn't get it back then, and I honestly didn't get it back then, I guess like I do now. I watched it recently. I probably watched it, 3 months ago or something. But he saw that it was all the financial system that tied everything together. If you'll remember, that's what they did, was basically, it's a little naive to think that by destroying the physical buildings that you would actually, destroy the infrastructure. But that's what they did in the movie, was take out the credit card, and they actually. But part of the big thing of that was they were everybody in the building, so they made sure nobody got hurt when it happened, because they were all in on it, and they basically
in the
made
movie, it was like the whole society collectively agreeing, because no matter what, even the cops, except for the one dude, were like, "It's okay, sir." They kept everybody's collectively deciding to destroy the city, except for him with the last minute.
Yeah, that's right. So just remember how that turned out, and remember how. There's always the drive to survive, and there's always humanity, the spirit of independence, and I think people are going to be a lot harder to control than some of these people realize. You may be able to propagandize 70% of us, and I'm sure it even controls our actions to a degree, but
Propagandize me.
We think we're so immune to it, though, but at the same time, they probably recognize that we're going to be contrary to whatever they propagandize us with, and have that in mind whenever they propagandize us.
The Hill. What are they talking about?
So let's look at a couple things for you. Look at this creeping fucking face, man. Look at this guy.
So snappable.
It is. Bill Gates. Man, nobody can see that. Hang on. Want to see your what, Dustin?
Oh, while he's getting a picture pulled up, I had a concept band that I don't have time for, so someone else do it. Avril Lavigne mixed with either Rob Zombie or Cannibal Corpse, and call it Avril Cadaver. They could even have like they're doing like dances dressed up like a zombie on them.
There we go.
That's probably dad jokey as hell, but I don't care.
I like.
It made me giggle a little bit.
I like dad jokes.
I do
Made
too.
old Bill giggle too, right down into his loins.
Believes rich nations would help the global fight against climate change by consuming only plant-based meat products instead of beef. In a recent interview with Technology Review, Gates discussed his new book, quote, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, and emphasized the benefits rich nations could produce by moving to 100% synthetic beef. Gates said when asked about how countries can help to reduce methane emissions when it comes to food production, quote, I do think all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef. You can get used to the taste difference, and the claim
You can
is
get
they're going
used to
make
the
it
taste
taste even better
difference.
over time.
In other words, you will have nothing and you will like it. Well, you know what I think Bill could use some pie.
Well, how recent was this?
Oh, this was back in
That's old.
yeah, it's back in the 90s.
Man, that would make, well, I'm not condoning for violence. I'm just saying, like, I just hope that if I found, hypothetically, whichever camera we're at now, since I can't see the screen, hypothetically, I win $1 billion in the lottery, and for some reason, just hit the I'm an asshole button, and I'm like, hookers blow, and I'm taking over Cuba, and I go down.
Throwing a pie at Bill Gates.
And all of a sudden, I become a gigantic billionaire jerk. Which he's a billionaire. Why is he okay? Like, everybody wants death to billionaires, but not this one for some reason. I become a billionaire jerk. Super billionaire jerk. Shouldn't golf pie me? Well, I would expect somebody to pie me. So I'm just saying, if I become an asshole overnight, God, I'm gonna regret this in 20 years.
I'll pie you, Tim.
You're like looking back at this because it's on the internet.
Yep. You can't stop the
Been a
signal.
jerk in the last 5 years. Are we doing bombs? Are we got enough material tonight?
I think we let's go ahead and hit it for us, bud.
Okay.
Get into it. Nukes aren't real. Nor do you want to do it when you have time to pull pictures
No,
up?
they're pretty
Okay.
easy to find. I can just give you the basic theory and people can make up their mind because I don't think anybody's going to believe me. But I'm going to try, to quote Labyrinth. Not the David Bowie one. There's a singer named Labyrinth who has a pretty cool song I'll let you hear later. It's not new, but it's pretty. Oh, okay. You got an article one pulled up. Pull up an old picture of the nuclear bomb, like one with the originals, if you don't care, because I'm trying to give it to you from the perspective.
What, the Fat Man bomb?
The actual explosion, any of the tests,
Hiroshima or
and I'll
nuclear?
try to show you. I guess as you show them pictures and stuff, because it's not hard. This would basically be like if you just went to images on Google.
Oh, images. Okay.
Yeah. There's a couple of them that are kind of suspect that I'll try to find. Like they say when this one, doesn't that look like a well? Sorry,
Hang on a second.
I get you saying. You're trying to let them see the screen, and at the same time make sure they can hear me ramble on like an ass. My phone, which should reveal you something about myself, uncomfortable, always. We'll come back to that word. Always corrects the word always into ass hats. So I use that word so much that always. Anyway,
So you probably use the word ass hats more than always.
quite a bit. Oh my
You
God!
always use the word ass
Oh
hats.
my.
Oh, Tim's got the mouse. We're going to Pornhub. Iron Mountain Hour just got banned from YouTube.
Not if you live in Russia, you're not.
Let's see.
Going to Pornhub?
Is Pornhub pulled from Russia?
Yep.
Why?
They've decided that they don't want to provide porn to Russians.
Let's be honest. How many Russian?
a lot of
a lot,
Russians
exactly.
watch porn and have been drinking.
No, I'm saying how many
drink
porn
vodka
people
and-
are Russian. It's quite a-
Lots of them drinking vodka, watching Pornhub, and wearing
look for
tracksuits.
specific ones. You can find videos. I don't really want to bore people with the videos that are very, very easy to find on YouTube if they've not been pulled. I don't think they have. There's a couple of images that you can find where it looks like there's some weird spires sticking at. Maybe this is it right here. That's not it. There's one that you can find that looks like these geometric spheres that are coming out of it, and the scientific explanation is that it caused the spheres to, or it caused the cables that were holding the bomb in place to essentially vaporize and turn into these weird shapes. But here's where the theory comes from. As we scroll through images of nuclear bombs, we can traumatize our audience.
Drop a bomb on. Truth bomb.
The idea that nuclear bombs aren't real comes from the idea that you could, same theory as the moon, it's actually easier just to set up a set. It's not that you can't go to the moon, it's just less expensive to not go to the moon. So it's not the idea that we can't blow up smash an atom and blow it up. It's actually just easier and cheaper. Because here's what they would say. If you go to look at the old nuclear test videos, and I'm sorry people, I don't believe this. This is just my favorite video in case that you're judging. This is the one time you see Tim and you're judging me on this. Please don't. They said it would be easier just to say, this nuclear bomb has the power of 10,000 pounds of TNT. And that's what the video would say, something like that.
Yeah.
And then the guy, it kind of makes sense. Like, which one's easier to do? Figure out how to smash an atom and do that over and over again? Or just blow
Blow
10,000 pounds of TNT, get a mile or two away, film that giant nuclear, because it still does a mushroom cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
Look up this.
Look up a daisy cutter. It's not
Look
a
up
nuclear bomb.
type in Moab. And
Yeah.
look up the images of a Moab bomb
Yeah.
hitting those Middle Easterners. And it's a mushroom cloud. Moab. Look
That's
how
not the-
beautiful those bombs are. They basically...
What?
Look up explosion. It's still a mushroom cloud is my point. And so if you get a giant enough explosion, the mushroom cloud is not unique to a nuclear bomb. A large enough explosion, mushroom clouds. And so the conspiracy was it's cheaper for them to put 100,000 pounds of TNT and just get really far away from it, blow it up, and then say, look at this nuclear bomb. Now, how they connect that to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because you said you can't drop 10,000 pounds of TNT on a town, right? That's where the hole is. But the plan before the nuclear bomb if you've never heard, I'm pretty sure you guys had. Hell yeah. The bat bombs. Do you know about those?
Nope.
Okay, before the idea was to drop nuclear bombs on Japan, the idea was to airdrop parachute containers into those cities. Those cities were made of like a lot of wood and thin papers, because, you know, traditional Japanese buildings. And a timer release would open the containers, and hundreds of thousands of bats would come out with incendiary devices on their ankles. And then the bats would just fly
Holy
into the
crap.
buildings, and then they would just napalm Japan to the ground because it's a paper city, and so fire would do that. And so the argument is, if you look at the old pictures of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, that city just burnt to the ground. And if you look at the roads and stuff, it doesn't have the blast patterns in a lot of places. Some people argue they'd already cleaned parts of it up. But the conspiracy theorists are arguing that it would have been really easy to burn Nagasaki and Hiroshima to the ground anyway, because they were made of paper.
The bat thing, that's just like
That's
it's
that's
like
a real
comical,
bomb.
like Bond villain type
It really is.
thing that would happen.
Yeah, seems like we.
I
keep
love
linking-
gold.
Seems like we keep linking things to bats though.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's
It's
been
batty, isn't it?
yeah, it's been the bats have been pretty prominent lately.
They link it to also the nuclear power, where that guy used to swim around in the steam and would drink the radiation water and stuff. They're trying to say that radiation and nuclear stuff and it's all in itself is blown up over what it really is. But the idea that the first nuclear bombs weren't what they said they were is where the theory is. Not that they couldn't do it at the time. It's just that they weren't doing it on the level that they tried to make it look like it. That bat thing is pretty wild, though. I found a video. I think it was by the internet historian, explaining the most likely scenario for Roswell. Was there was a sonar program where essentially they had giant listening devices up on hot air balloons or weather balloons, and that was why they freaked out when one landed, because it was a weather balloon according to these other reports they found. It just had a CIA device on it that was able to hear really far away, and they didn't want people finding it.
You want to hear a Tim level conspiracy theory with regard to nuclear bombs?
Much.
So there was one I heard back in the old days of YouTube. I think this was a Christopher Everard film. If anybody wants to look him up, he has some very good conspiracy videos, including the Illuminati Chronicles, the Illuminati 1 through 4. He actually, I really believe this guy solved the Princess Diana murder and the Jack the Ripper murder in a couple of his films. They're very good and very fact-based. But he also has some, now this guy, he has some grandparents who were French aristocrats. And when they died, he inherited their property and their library. And he has these, I think they were Rosicrucian Society and many other books that that his family was privy to. And he inherited these, and he shares a lot of the photos and some of the documents from this library in his videos. But one of the things he shows in I think it's the Illuminati Chronicles 1 is he claims that I think it's pretty well known that Jack Parsons was an occultist, the founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and a lot of the rocket tech that was used to go to the moon and create, intercontinental ballistic missiles, things like this. Solid rocket fuel was invented by Jack Parsons, and he was a member of the Ordo Templi Orientis, which was Crowley's organization, his occult organization, and
He's linked to the CIA.
yes, and so apparently they did a ritual called Babylon Working at the original Trinity nuclear bomb test, where now this is according to Everard, I believe. Crowley had an orgy in the Great Pyramid where he did a bunch of drugs with a bunch of women, and they summoned all 72 demons in the Lower Goetia, the Lesser Key of Solomon, and he impregnated a woman, and that this child was encased in the big thing that you see next to the Trinity nuclear bomb.
Emotep pops up.
And they created
Big slug booger.
hang on, let's see. That they created this golem from this sexual union that Crowley had there with all those demons around, and they were trying to create the it wasn't a homunculus quite, I don't think. Maybe it was, but they were trying to.
That's more of a Full Metal Alchemist reference, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think a golem and a homunculus are very similar, very, very similar
Well, the
in nature.
golem, in the traditional sense, was though that it's just something that follows directions and causes pain because it's been inflicted pain on, whereas the homunculus is often small. I don't know.
A small human, yeah. I've heard Dr. Leanna Wynn referred to as
His
the
acid
homunculus.
blood and is named after one of the 7 deadly sins.
Well, the Trinity test, according to Everard, they had this offspring of this sire during this orgy who was encased in this. I don't see a thing, but you've seen famous pictures of the Trinity nuclear test that had this big metal tank next to it, and they said that this golem was there and that he absorbed all this radiation as part of this ritual.
Dude,
So
can you imagine how easy it would be? Like, if that
Here it is.
stuff really worked, like, if all it is, if, like, we just wanted to create a superhuman, it would be for us just to get our buddies together and, like, go to Stonehenge and all have, like, an orgy out there on acid, and all of a sudden, bam, golf poops out like a demon baby, and we're like, it's king, and we just raised it, and
I have a Taco Bell.
we're like, man, that was a rough experience, but being queen of the world, queen golf of the world next to my demon son here, you know, pretty well worth it, because I got all the bass guitars.
Yeah, I guess.
I bought the Moog Factory.
well, so in closing,
Got you nut.
nukes aren't real. No, it's something else.
To the dawn of the atomic age.
That's just no, it's not a chat.
Oh,
It just looks like it.
You're blending it out.
Yeah.
It's related, and I was like, that's a clever bot.
Clever bot. So in closing, nukes aren't real. There is a new world order. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if their nukes are real or not. It sure seems like they are, but that is one of those theories
I
that's
think
out
the
there.
theory, the beginning part, because there are some videos you can find that are pretty sketch. Like some of the points he brings up, like the video, like that destroys everything, but the camera doesn't even budge.
Yeah.
This is the 50s. Some of the the back in the day, apparently they didn't know that much about it because they'd blow the shit up and then send the soldiers running into it because they thought that was going to
Yeah.
be like a game strategy.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to hit them while they're down.
Yeah,
Like,
good.
okay. So I mean, they know that those soldiers died from that.
Oh yeah, they did it. No,
They-
yeah,
in
no,
fact,
they had soldiers. Yeah, they had soldiers get to see how far away they could sit without having while they watched. They had soldiers watching at different distances to see what would happen to them. So yeah, they definitely
But
knew.
have you heard the that John Wayne died from radiation poisoning?
No, I haven't.
Did you know that one? They filmed a movie. I forget where I heard this now. Probably
It's like what?
the internet, definitely.
Yeah, it was like that last movie.
It was a movie he did about, I think it was Genghis Khan. And before people, here's one of the funny things. This is what the internet wants to get jumped on. The story is he played Genghis Khan in a movie. I'm wanting to say it was like The Warrior or The Conqueror or something of that nature. And they filmed it in the locations where they had done a lot of nuclear bomb testing because it was the desert. And the area where Genghis Khan was I guess looked like that. And apparently a lot of those actors, like 200 or something, died of radiation poisoning from being out in there. Now, what the internet wants to get concerned about, not that an entire cast of a movie, including John Wayne, one of the most famous actors of all time, died of crazy reasons of something they totally could have prevented. Maybe not filmed it here where they drop bombs to save money. Go over to here. People wanted to talk about how racist it was that they filmed John Wayne as an Asian. But you know why they did it?
Because Asians love
Asians love John Wayne. Like, he's cool. He kicks ass. Make him Genghis Khan. It's like, well, yeah.
I got to show you his line here in the greatest story ever told. This is my favorite John Wayne line ever.
Never seen this. I mean, I blocked it out.
Truly, this man was the Son of God.
Oh.
He was totally loaded, man.
Like John Wayne.
Son of God. That was all they could get out of him. You know, John Wayne, they had to take
John
that
Wayne.
over and over again, probably, and they just got fed up with him and said, all right, we're just going to have to use that one. Just zoom out, Zora. We can't see him.
Probably was like his brain was starting to seize from the. Well, no, this is before the radiation poisoning.
I don't know, but he sure seems like he was loaded. Let's hear it again.
This man was the Son of God. Truly, this man was the Son of God.
I got him where you can't even see him.
Truly, this man was the Son of God.
He says it like Rocky after he said the shit kicked him.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bad, like, teaching a robot how to speak like John Wayne.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's all we got for you tonight, folks. Anybody else have anything they want to add?
Oh, we actually have a sponsor this week. Ready?
Is it Tammy Hubbard's dildo store?
Tammy Hubbard, custom dildos. Tammy has her own. Well, how she got into it was she does nails. She's very good at it, but she discovered in her Mad like Dexter's Lab style shed in her backyard. She goes down inside of it, builds robots, all kinds of crazy shit, and she discovered that nail polish is very flexible and very dildo-esque when it's hardened into a Jeff Bezos-like cylinder. And so she is on a venture to open up the Hubbard Dildo Factory pretty soon. And hopefully we'll have a logo next time. And,
Poor Tammy. I'm sorry, Tammy. I'm sorry, Tammy. I don't know you,
Thanks
but
for the sponsorship,
thanks for
money,
watching
Tammy.
the show for sure, and thanks for chatting.
Thanks for the gift card to Intimate Treasures.
And it'll be loaded up next time.
Keep that good stuff coming. We'll see you next time.